There's no denying that Dungeons and Dragons influenced video game design quite a bit. It didn't take long after the release of D&D that video game designer tried to emulate the experience on the computer. And this took different form from the most rudimentary to the most advanced given the technology of the time. But we can still nowadays trace in the DNA of many modern video games the influence of D&D. Now the video game industry is much bigger than the RPG one, and the influence got reversed. Now RPGs, well some RPGs were influenced by video game. D&D 4th edition is the flagrant example of this, where every character had powers that you could activate, and you would unlock those powers as you level up, making your build, and those powers had cooldown. And with 5th edition, Wizard of the Coast moved back from that approach a bit. They seem to be bringing it back for the 6th edition or D&D 1. Mostly, I guess, profit driven. They see like the how video game are lucrative, and they want to increase their profit margin. But the video game influence goes much deeper than in the design of the games. A much more insidious impact is on the mind of the new players. People who never played a tabletop RPGs have played computer RPG. And when they join the table for the first time, their expectation and their mindset comes from what they know, video games. Gone are the days we would say, oh, this computer game is really cool. It's like D&D, but on the computer. Now, people will say, oh, D&D is like whatever computer RPGs in vogue now, but around the table with dice. But the difference goes much further than that, or at least it should be. Computer RPGs have little to do with real RPGs. What are called RPGs in video games are games where you have stats, and those stats can level up. You play a character, and that's about it. Now they even talk about games with RPG elements, or when having stat that can level up is tacked on a game. There used to be that there was a narrative element to computer RPGs. They were more story driven, but that is not no longer necessarily true because now you have games with very weak narrative being called RPGs and games that are very narrative driven that are not considered RPGs. But even the fact that a game is story driven wouldn't be a good criteria to be called RPGs. What is so special in RPGs and tabletop RPGs is the freedom that you get in them. A computer RPGs will always be on rail to some extent. And I think a big part of the reason we see new players coming to the TTRPG hobby always asking, can I do X? Is because they're not used to that freedom. They come from the with their video game mentality. They look at the character sheet like the UI of a game with buttons to press to have things happen. People have been trained on that. And now we have a generation also that of kids that didn't have free play outside when they were young. This is something that disappeared because the outside is no longer safe thanks to diversity. And now everything is organized and regulated to create the perfect drones that will perfectly follow what they're told when they grow up. They're gonna wear their face mask alone in their car and support all the current things and so whatever the authority tell them is good is good. They're gonna oppose whatever is declared bad. So you take those people and you tell them, just tell me what your character tries to do. Just say what your characters say, and they freeze. You'll see them look at you, look down at the character sheet, look at you again, back at the sheet, and then they're gonna ask, "Can I kick down the door?" They don't see the kick down the door button or prompt on their UI, so they don't understand how to make it happen. They don't understand that they just have to say, "I tried to kick down the door." And also in video game RPGs, we often end up looking at what to do to have the story progress and get the good ending. Trying to pass all the check that will unlock the optimal conclusion. And this can also affect the attitude of players when they come to the tabletop RPGs. But in TTRPGs, there are no good ending. At least there shouldn't be if you're not into a module or on a railroad, because there is no pre-planned ending. You're not there to experience a story served to you that may or may not have some branching paths. You're there to have a story happen with the other people around the table. You make it happen. So I think this is something that we have to make the people joining the hobby understand, that this is not like a video game, not even like a computer role playing game, not even close. The essence of tabletop RPG with roleplay and all cannot be emulated in video games, at least not at the moment. Maybe with the advance of machine learning and AI, it will come, but that's not for tomorrow. Well, if you're more like a old school player, like a with a lot of random table and stuff like that, where the GM just described the result of what he rolled randomly on those charts, I guess you're much closer to have an AI take the seat of a GM. But other than that, if you're more into the role play, machine cannot do that now. Many people cannot do that now. So that is what I wanted to talk about today. I hope you found something useful in this video, something to consider when you interact with newer players. Have a good day and take care.